the stuff that I prefer to flip is predominantly kind of like jazz and bossa nova shit, and I am trying to like explore different fields of music. It's limiting, man. Like, I don't really like to go to record shops no more in England because it's...
Yo, welcome back to Shotgun the Orcs. It's your boy Tom alongside Aidan and Jake as usual. Today we welcome a very special guest to the podcast, producer, beatmaker, new signee to High Focus Records. It's Mr Slipz. How you doing, man?
Yeah, good. Not too bad, thank you. Just chilling in my back sort of porch area. Yeah.
You're Brighton based, aren't you?
Yeah, I live in Brighton. I've been here, I think, like almost 6 years, maybe like just over 5. I think it'll be 6 years in like October or something.
Yeah. Oh, right. Where'd you move from then?
I was living in Bath for a little bit and Bristol before that. And
all the bees then.
Yeah, all the bees.
Yeah.
Before that, I was in Cardiff. I sort of grew up in. Like I moved to England when I was 14, and then I went to school in Bath, lived there for a bit. Then I went to Cardiff when I was like 19, stayed there for a while, and then moved to Bristol for a bit, back to Bath, back to Bristol, and then eventually came here and sort of quite settled on Brighton. It's nice. It's a nice place. It's pretty easy going.
Yeah, man. No, I can imagine. I mean, like seaside town and all of that. I mean, being from Bournemouth, we're familiar with the sea.
Yeah.
But Bath must have been hard to move from, man. It's so nice there. Like, it's like a film set. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
is it quite boring or like what's
yeah,
it like?
It's the. I mean, it was a nice place to sort of go to school and shit. And the skate park, I think, was like the savior for a lot of people. If it wasn't for that, I think I would have that. And like when I was younger, I used to smoke a lot of weed. So those two things hand in hand kind of like gave me something to do, you know. But I think it is a very small kind of, it is a bit of a bubble. And I think like when you get too comfortable somewhere, sometimes you can sort of lose your ambition. And as perhaps at a young age, it's good to kind of like get out and experience more things and meet new people. It might help you to give a bit of direction. So I mean, I'm fairly settled at the moment. I am getting itchy feet, but I am working with a lot of people around here and that. And obviously HF is based here, Yogocop's based here. So it's good for me to be here, but I do like to just keep moving around sometimes, you know, and like meeting people and just going to new places, you know. And
that's healthy, man.
I feel like Bath can sometimes be a bit of a graveyard of ambition, you know. Like there's a lot of people there that are really talented, doing a lot of music, but they're not really going anywhere because the city can sort of, you can get too involved in it, you know, sometimes.
Yeah, man, I hear that. But I mean, congrats on the recent news with High Focus and all of that kind of stuff.
Thanks, man.
Was there like a signing party like remotely, or were you just guzzling beers on the beach?
I bought well, it's I said to Verbz, like when we sign a contract, we should like just get drunk and hang out. And obviously, like we did it during the lockdown, so I just bought 2 bottles of champagne and just drank them. Drank them on my flatmate's got a little like rooftop that kind of like catches the sun, so I just popped a few bottles on there.
Man. That's sick. I rate that, man.
Got a bit too drunk. Yeah, Verbz is based in Croydon, but he lived down here for a bit, and his girlfriend lives here. She used to live literally just down the road, like 30 seconds. So he is here quite a bit. Yeah, but he's predominantly based in Croydon.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It was my wedding anniversary on. I should remember this. A Monday just gone, and we went to open a bottle of champagne we got on the wedding day. And I was like bracing myself, and then it just did fuck all. It just went, and just like there was like no gas in it. It had gone off.
Oh,
and I
no.
went to drink it, and I was like, does champagne even go off? Like, is that a thing that happens?
Oh,
Apparently it is, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, slightly less
drink
successful
it anyway?
champagne story. Oh no, man, it was it was vile.
Yeah.
It's honestly like sour. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I never really drink champagne. Like, I've done it. I've drank champagne and Buckfast a few times just to get really fucking pissed, you know, like mostly with like the Compounds and like those homies who are quite wavy guys. But I personally hate champagne. That's why I tend to mix it with Buckfast if it's there, because it's kind of like a Kia Royale, is it, where you put like orange juice or, you know.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
Champagne ain't my thing, really, man. Like,
well, apparently it isn't mine either. Fucking hell. But better luck next year, maybe. But
congrats on your anniversary as well, man.
Thanks, man. But so Iron Grip dropped last week.
Yeah.
Verbz. Obviously landed on High Focus with the video as well. Was that Loud House? He dropped that.
Yeah, James filmed it. Yeah, so there was a bit of communication. We were basically on the lead up to, because we've made a new album. On the lead up to that, we were trying to like just put some singles out, and that was one of them. And we filmed with James. We actually dropped it first on our channel, and then because, you know, it was kind of like Xander Flips like phoned us and was like, oh, you know what, why don't you take it down now quickly and then we'll sort it all out, blah, blah, blah. So we did actually drop it initially. I don't think a lot of people caught on to that. And then we ended up like, you know, it makes sense to just put it officially out with HF. So we did that. And yeah, it's nice to see the reaction from people. It was kind of like a throwaway single, really. We weren't, you know, overly gassed on it. I said to Verbz, why don't we try and do like a Madlib, Freddie Gibbs type thing, where it's the beat is literally a couple loops that I've like, you know, chopped out, and then he kind of flows differently from stuff that we've done previously. So it ended up being nice. I think it's quite a smooth joint, and yeah, I'm stoked that it's out. Our album's different though. It's not really on that style, so it's nice to have something a bit different as well out.
100%, man.
Yeah.
And earlier, like, just popped up on my phone about an hour ago, New Benedict joint dropped, produced by yourself.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So we actually made that quite a while ago, and then I remember, I think it was like 2 years ago, when he started putting the album together, he was like, can you take it down? I was like, well, yeah, we'll take it down, because he wanted to use it. I think the beat is like, it's all right. I'm not like overly gassed on it, but I think you're
modest, man. It's hard. It's a good song.
Thank you. I feel like the subject that Ben writes about, and it's really meaningful to him, and obviously it's a really sort of sensitive subject. So it kind of, the theme of Benedict's album, when you hear it, you'll see that it kind of ties into it. So I feel like it's good that song's like, you know, come out on something a bit more of a platform than just SoundCloud, like a vinyl, you know, because it's got a lot of substance to it, especially what Ben's kind of the direction he went with it, you know. So yeah, I'm really excited about Ben's project, you know. It's I've obviously heard it, and it's wicked. It's really good. I'm like well proud of him, because it's been a minute since he dropped a rap project, you know. So
yeah, because he just made feat tapes recently, isn't it?
Yeah, he's been working under his alias a lot, and I think he wanted to take a little sort of break from rapping for a bit, which, you know, he's someone who like articulates a lot of thought into his rap now, his tracks. Maybe he didn't so much when he was younger and pre-rehab and that, you know, but he's a changed person now. So I think it's important for him sometimes to just take a bit of time out and really think about the message and stuff, you know.
Yeah, of course.
I think, like, I don't want to sound like a dip, but I think some rappers could, like, maybe could do that a bit more, because sometimes you hear a lot of the same stuff and I
couldn't agree with you more, man. It does get very, very, very samey, and I think that's something that, especially listen to I mean, like I said, he hasn't put out a sort of rap album in a while. It's just been beat tapes. Especially listening through his albums, they're very conceptual, aren't they?
Yeah, I think now more so than before, because obviously the change that he's made in his life, and you know, he's had to make a really big change in the experience that he's gone through. People he's met through doing it, it's given him a lot of, like, subject and a lot of content basically for him to write about, and it's like stuff that's so relevant as well throughout hip hop and throughout our generation growing up, you know. So, like, it's nice to see someone kind of being that intimate with their penmanship, you know. I feel like Verbz is like that as well. He can do the whole, like, hard style, like the gully shit, but he can also be very sensitive in a very sort of, you know, like aggressive way as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that me and Tom, like, agree, because when he came on the podcast, he dropped some bars for us afterwards, and what me and Tom, we just couldn't get over the fact that he's so just chilled, and, like, if he was any more, like, laid back, he'd be lying down, but then you get him to rap.
He loves lying down.
He just snaps into a different person. Man. And it's incredible.
It's impressive, isn't it? It's like when we're recording, sometimes we'll be, you know, just like chilled, and then he's just gets straight into it. And he's very good at, like, keeping his tone and keeping his voice and just projecting it. It's like supernatural to him, you know, like, which is like you know, the main part of it, I think, you know.
Yeah, man, very, very dynamic. I think as well, he's got that very, like, old school kind of vibe to him, but done in a contemporary way. And it's because, you know, a lot of his bars are quite introspective, especially on, like, you know, the Adolescence record and stuff. I think a lot of other rappers, given that, you know, attempts in that style could come across corny. Do you know what I mean? But it works. It gels together really, really well. And obviously there's chemistry between, you know, you as a producer, him as an MC. Did that kind of click? Did that click initially when you first met, or was it something that you worked on? And also, I guess.
Well, how did you meet?
I think the story was that when Verbz came on, he said that he broke his leg time ago, and he was, like, off his tits on codeine and stuff. He was penning loads of bars, and he'd met you prior to that, but then he had a lot of, like, backed up material ready to go after he.
Yeah, so I went to my friend M. Cozy's house one time just to, like, get pissed and have a bit of a party, and Verbz was with Too Late and Zach, who's, like, another homie, like one of Verbz's best mates, and they all came over. And that was the first time I met all three of them, and you know, we had some drinks and that. Obviously, everyone's, like, doing the whole rap thing, playing beats. So I met him then, and then I left, and then one day he was like, I think prior to this he had messaged me on SoundCloud, been like, "Are you up for working?" But I was trying to finish it, Don't Stop. And I said to him, "Yeah, I'm obviously down." And then somewhere further down the line, he'd broken his leg and that, and I think he'd recently had his cast off or something like that. And he was like, "Look, I'm coming to Brighton. Should we try and make a song?" And he came over, and he ended up staying, I think, for 3 days, and we just made lessons in we made like a song, and then we made 2, then we had like 4 there, and he was like, why don't we just make 4 more? And then and then we thought about the skits and stuff, and then we got a bottle of brandy and drank it.
Go on, get the old copy here, man.
Oh, sick. Yeah.
Fantastic record, man.
On the cover. Lessons was cool because honestly, I had no idea that people would enjoy it as much as they did. So just from sitting there and making it with him, to me it kind of like it wasn't like rushed, but it was like some of the beats were old, and like because it was unplanned, there wasn't like the thought process that has maybe gone into this new album, like with certain concepts and like certain ideas and the concept of the album as well. So for it to just come together that easy, I think is like a sign, innit? When something like that happens, you're like, well, look, we need to like meet up again.
We're onto something,
yeah.
Is that what fueled the second album then? You wanted to sort of put into it?
When we'd it was mixed and we got all the cuts on and stuff, it was there and like in an order. we sort of put it out, and then Verbz was like, we didn't put it out, we were like, we should just start a duo, and I was like, cool, I'm game, and then that kind of happened. And then at the time Verbz wasn't really like fucking with UK labels, kind of, because my initial thought was, let's put it out on Yogocop, obviously, but I don't think he wanted to be part of, he was still kind of underground, and like he didn't really want to be part of like the scene, I know what you mean. Sometimes it sounds really like cliquey or whatever, it's just music, it's and
I see what you mean. I think like where I think like UK hip hop, it is if you think about it, it's a very small scene, and when someone does put out something with a label, then they want to see like they're straight away linked to that label and that sort of sound, and they can't really do anything else. Do you know what I mean? They're put in that box.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, to some degree. Look, Yogocop is very versatile though as well. We don't like, if people want to go and do stuff with other labels, we're not going to put our foot down. It's very like liberal. But I think more from his point of view. So he started talking to Janice, who owns Radio Juicy, and because I think Too Late had put something out with them, and I'd like spoken to him a few times. So we ended up going that way, which I think kind of benefited us, because a lot of like people in Germany and a lot of people in Austria and that fuck with us, because of that label. Because it came out on that label, and then at the same time, people in England listened to it, and we did shows and stuff. So it kind of worked out well.
Because who was Lessons of Adolescence put out through eventually?
It's Radio Juicy. It was Radio Juicy, yeah.
What was that German? There was
another German label. Pressed it up.
That was it. Yeah.
So Radio Juicy is like a baby label that stemmed from HHV. But because artists like 1, 2, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but these like lo-fi producers put a lot of stuff out, it ended up getting bigger than HHV.
Right.
So they're like interlinked, and a lot of the stuff that Juicy releases, HHV then press up.
And it's
really weird, and it was all like, it all started getting a bit weird with them, and I don't want to go into details, but we were like, we didn't feel that the energy that we put in was like reciprocated. And obviously labels, if it's a 50-50 split with a label, me and Verbz were getting 25% of that. So whoever's doing the 50%, they need to do something to, and so we felt like the energy wasn't reciprocated, and we were like, we don't really want to work with you anymore, and then.
And is Don't Let the Label You. Are they linked to them as well? Or is that separate?
No, so Don't Let the Label You. They're really awesome people. They're just two guys. It started off as two guys basically just creating a YouTube channel and working with people that they love, they like the sound of. Like they went into a lot of German battle rap. So predominantly they're two German guys. One of them, Jolly J, he was actually in Don't Flop as a battle rapper.
Oh shit.
Yeah, he did a lot of stuff. He went to school in England. I think like his mum's English and his dad's German, but he lives out there. And they're just like a channel that have grown, and they just took every opportunity to like interview people, to do ciphers, to do all that kind of thing. They're like their own separate entity, but they have set up a side label called Earsight, and a lot of those Beats on Road things. I don't know if you've seen any of them, where people play on the train.
Did you do Beats on Road? Yeah, I saw you. Yeah. Was that in Berlin then? Or?
Yeah, it's always on the Berlin U-Bahn, like the underground. Mm-hmm. I think Ben did one as well, Benedict, under Psalm Trees. I did mine with Illiterate, like at the same time. I've done another one, but they're doing this like Beats on Boats series first, and then they're putting it out.
When you playing Beats on the Tube or Metro, like does it feel like way awkward to begin with?
Mate, it's super awkward. It's so awkward.
Is it just one cameraman?
Mate, it's awkward enough playing Beats in like a club, you know, like people, let alone to a bunch of random German people on a train. Like I had to like drink a fair few beers and like do some shots of Jaeger just to get, you know.
Is it just one cameraman?
No, it's two cameramen, and then they shoot at quite a busy time. So like I don't know if you've seen it, but it gets quite busy, but you know, you just kind of zone into the beat set and do it.
I've seen
it seems. I always love seeing like the little old lady like next to one of you, just like looking like way curious.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's, you know, it's those guys are wicked guys, and like it's I met them ages ago, and I mentioned to them that I was coming to Berlin, and basically they organised that, and then I went out another time with Verbz, and we did a few bits and bobs out there. They've done a lot of stuff with Strange Love. Do you know Strange Love? No, they're
rings a bell.
Yeah, they're a really sick crew from London. I think they've split up now, but I'm quite good friends with a guy called Freedom. He's not called Freedom anymore. He's changed his name, but they're really good rappers, man. Like really, really sick guys. Nice. And
So like rewinding things back, obviously like you've moved around quite a bit in the UK. How did you get into music? Was it something that you kind of grew up with, and where did you kind of draw inspiration from as a beat maker?
Yeah, well, I definitely got into music because my dad has always played played in blues bands. So he's like from a kid growing up, he'd always be like rehearsing with his band and shit. And when I was young, I used to just go and sit in there and listen to it and stuff. And yeah, my mum played piano for a long time, and I guess like as kids we were encouraged into like playing instruments and stuff like that. So yeah, the main interest probably stems from that, and then, you know, like I started off DJing. I lived with some DJs, and I was like, fuck it, I may as well learn to DJ if there's turntables and vinyls here, you know. So started doing that, and then I just tried making beats probably like 9-10 years ago. Just my friend who was sleeping on my sofa at the time in Cardiff, he was like, oh, I'll put Reason on your computer, and he would make beats and I would like watch him, and then I would make beats, and then it sort of developed from that. And it was something that I was interested in, wanted to do, you know. So then I just like did it. I just like focused and tried to learn and stuff.
And where did you say you were living now?
So I was living in Cardiff at the time.
Right.
Yeah, and I met like a bunch of kids that DJ'd and like there was a whole crew of like kids making hip hop and like making dubstep and shit. There was a little clique of us. And,
dubstep, nice.
Yeah, like back in the day, like you know when is it Big Apple Records or something? Like when Benga and Scream first emerged on the scene, like and there's a healthy music scene in Cardiff, and I think that sort of stemmed it was like I feel like when you're at school and stuff, sometimes you can be really forced into like do this, you know, and they don't really push a lot of creative stuff. You know, they push like they want results, and they kind of push like these, and then you finish school, and if you don't necessarily go to uni straight away, you can sort of you experience a bit of the real world. You're like, well, actually, I'm interested in this. I'm gonna give it a try because I'm young and I don't have a past yet, and all this. So I feel like when I went to Cardiff, it was like the seed that got planted. These kids, these homies I was hanging around with, who are still my homies now, they all sort of fueled it, and I guess I had the drive to spend my own time besides working, like trying to learn it and trying to work out, you know, how to sample shit and how to use an MPC and how to use Logic and all this, you know. So
yeah, man.
Yeah.
So like obviously like Jake's taking snapshots. So like your style's been kind of described as your style's being described as kind of like dusty, lo-fi. It's got a very laid back, jazzy sound to it.
Yeah.
Is this something that you like? How did you develop this style and this sound specifically? Is it just stuff that you like to listen to, like personally? So
I guess like when I mean, I think it's just I don't really know. Like obviously a lot of the hip hop that I prefer to listen to is on a similar vibe to that, you know, like some of my favorite artists kind of have that sort of sound. So I guess like it you know, like influenced musically, like you can definitely hear certain musical influences, you know, like when I put out Feeling So High with Benedict, a lot of people would come up to me and be like, oh yeah, you did that tune that the Far Side sampled, and it's not even the same sample as the Far Side. I was just like, oh, Feeling So High. They're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, why not? Just don't correct them.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a similar kind of like
it's a similar aesthetic. Yeah, it's a similar aesthetic to it. I mean, to me, it sounds different. Like there's a girl singing on it, which passing me by, they sing on it. I don't think the girl does. But yeah, I can totally hear it. But I guess this is always going to happen, you know. I guess like a lot of people, you know, a lot of your influences, obviously, you'll try and sound similar-ish, but do it in your own kind of way. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I prefer to flip is predominantly kind of like jazz and bossa nova shit, and I am trying to like explore different fields of music. It's limiting, man. Like I don't really like to go to record shops no more in England because it's like we have like the same shit in each shop, you know, and like
I see.
So it's like I can save that money and I can go somewhere in Germany, or I want to go Poland one day and just go crazy, and you know, and like there's so much more stuff there, and they're open to way more music. Like when I went to this one spot in Berlin once, they had like the amount of jazz that like a whole record shop has records in England, you know? And I was like, holy fuck. I was like, this is insane. Where do I start? So it's tricky. But yeah, I mean, a lot of I feel like I started off kind of doing more jazzy stuff, but I have done like in between stuff as well, some more moodier stuff. Like if you listen to Gutter Tales, that's quite moody, and that's not actually a sample. That's me like playing keys and resampling it through the SP.
Oh, so shit! Okay,
giving that grip. So my flatmate at the time, Bo Byberry, he had like this like charity shop keyboard, you know, this little like £20 thing, and I don't even know how to play keys, but I was like, that sounds like a chord, and then I was you know, I'd record the chord, and then I would try and find the progression, and you know, and experimenting basically.
Improvisation. What's like the most because obviously you must own a shit ton of records, so what's some of the most like obscure records in your collection, man?
I don't even know, like, because I haven't been digging really. Like I've been buying like hip hop records and stuff because I like it, but like I said, I haven't really been to a record shop in England. I'll go to Rare Kind because it's local, and they're good to me. They sort me out and stuff. But in the last time I went digging and I enjoyed it, I was like in Berlin, and it was, you know, the sad thing was I got to this shop and the guy was like, I was like, "Where's your jazz section?" And the guy's like, he's like, "I close in 10 minutes." And I was like, "What?" He looks at me and he goes, "Too much jazz for 10 minutes. And I was like, "Well, where is it? Just point it to me." So, and then it was literally like the size of a normal record shop in England. And I was like, fuck. So I just grabbed stuff, you know? But I don't know. I don't even know. I've got, stuff. I don't even really know too much about records and stuff. I don't really go on like, oh, I'm buying this because it's rare. I just buy stuff because either I like the look of it, or I recognize the name and I know it's dope, you know. I've got like more rarer hip hop records, you know. I've got like Masquerades and Silhouettes, like literally like the instrumentals,
classic, you know, Lewis Parker, man.
Like white label signed by Lewis Parker.
Oh, white label, is it?
Yeah, it's like number 10 or something out of 40. I don't even know. I've got a few of the Griselda bits as well, you know. But yeah, I just kind of like, if there's an artist I like, I'll try and buy like all their records, you know. I've got a lot of Can Kick, you know, like From Arts Unknown. That's quite a rare record, like Acid Massive Music. I've almost got all his records basically, you know. In terms of like rare sampling stuff, I don't know. I don't really know what I've got.
Have you got any like guilty pleasures, music wise, like songs that you think, yeah, this is a banger, but I'm embarrassed to admit it?
I don't know.
Doesn't have to be hip hop.
I like Master of Puppets.
Oh, but Metallica.
Like sometimes I put that on and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do 5 press-ups, you know. I'm like, I like I don't really know, like a lot of the time I find myself just listening to like the homies and like people I know, you know, and see
that's sick.
If I don't see them for a while, I can listen to their music. I'm like, oh, that's what they've been up to. Like, it reminds me of them and stuff. But
oh man, you'll see them again soon.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Yeah,
it's hard though.
It's
so fucking weird.
Yeah, I've got quite a boring taste of music. I like reggae. I like a lot of reggae. I like listening to like old stuff as well, you know, like I feel like music so much realer like back in like the day, you know, like people were really putting their all into it. There wasn't much money and stuff, so that's like you know, that it carries way more of a meaning. It's almost like it's so much easier to do it now, you know.
So
like,
from a producer's point of view then, what do you think of the current state of the sort of music industry? Because obviously you're a beat maker. Do you find that, and this is something that I find when listening to like a lot of lo-fi or beats, I think you've got it's difficult to hear sometimes, because you've got this one side where, you know, really, really talented, really technical, and then you've got the other side where you just feel like it's just a basic loop with a beat.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like there's much has gone into it, but then it's like it sort of sounds the same and it gets put into the same pot. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's hard to differentiate because it's oversaturated, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then one side is like, you know, someone that's not done their research, but someone that's, you know, gone dig and found that perfect sort of sound, found that perfect sort of loop, actually like properly gone into it and dissected it. And then one is someone that's gone on to Loop Masters, and just downloaded that and that, and then that's it, done.
I feel like you've basically hit the nail on the head. There's certain people that and even before like lo-fi even came about, like if you listen to like early Pete Rock, like a lot of Madlib style stuff, it's like finding like a loop that just works so well with the drums. And like there's certain artists who like just do it really well, and that's all they need to do, you know. And you put this beat on in front of 15 drunk rappers and they'll rap for fucking 10 hours, you know. Like, and then there's like certain loop people that try and do that, and it's not really the same, you know. And obviously, like it's like anything. There's like so many indie bands, there's so many pop bands, there's, you know,
because it can still get received the same way, can't it?
Yeah. And I think that it's if you're constantly doing that, you know, then your fan base might get bored at some point, or new people will discover you at that point and sort of go back to what you've made. But it's like with this lo-fi stuff as well, the other thing is like it's really lucrative for some people. So someone who's like hitting the playlists a lot, then they're because of the money they're getting, maybe they're obliged into doing that, and that's carving their sound more than, say, the need for them to want to develop their sound more naturally and as a person push it, you know. So for me, like personally, I like making the lo-fi stuff, but then I like making a lot of like sort of 90s sounding stuff and stuff with a bit more development. The album I just put out with my friend Willis, like we went for that lo-fi kind of style, but Journeys, that's it. I don't know if you've listened to it, but
yeah, man, I've listened to it.
If you listen to it, it's like dusty, like lo-fi, but we've incorporated more samples and it kind of moves a bit more. So you're catching the loop and then it switches up and then some vocals might come in and all this, you know. And I feel like certain people do it so well. Like take 1-2, for example. The shit he does, it's dope, you know, and it's so simple, but it's just the steez that he's done it with. Even Madlib, like some of the shit he's done, it's literally just a loop. Like Iron Grip, it's literally just a fucking loop, but people are like, oh wow, this works so well. It took me about 2-3 minutes to get the idea down, you know.
That's just the way it is sometimes, man. You've mentioned Madlib a few times, man. Is he would you say he's one of your favorites, or
I definitely like Madlib a lot. I feel like he's very interesting. His music's really interesting, and he's an interesting character in terms of like the person who he is and how he approaches music, and his urge to create and sort of live by that rule is incredible. It's inspiring. Like you think about how much music he's put out, and then imagine how much music he's got sitting at home.
Crazy, man. He's like built his own little kind of meta universe as well. Like a lot of like samples he's used, and then he sampled his own samples in later projects and that kind of stuff. It's just it's so layered. He's
done the whole Yesterday's New Quintet thing where he's playing all the instruments. He's made like some of the best albums with Doom as well, you know, crazy shit. And now he's like breaking through into that commercial world, doing stuff with, I think he's got something common with Mac Miller, do you know what I mean? And like stuff he's done with Freddie Gibbs. It's like it's good to see an underground artist still keep it raw and stay true to himself. You know, I wouldn't say he's like, oh, I'm like obsessed with Madlib. I just feel like he's
kind of a go-to example, I guess.
A good example of someone who's like kept it kind of natural and always like he hasn't, you know, he could have gone commercial years ago, but he hasn't. He's kind of like just kept it raw, and everyone fucking knows him, you know.
Yeah, I think that's it, man. I mean, he's worked with a lot of people, you know, in the commercial kind of spectrum as well. Do you know what I mean? So he's well known. He kind of rides that line effortlessly. The stuff he did with Blue time ago as well, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Their chemistry worked really, really well. Blue's mad underrated, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. But I'm a huge fan of Loop Pack, you know, which was like original. Like, that's some of my favorite shit. Like, so all that, like, from listening to that, I've always obviously just followed him and stuff. And, you know, like, Can Kick, he's like one of my favorites without a doubt. But then there's new producers that rise up, like The Ringer. I really fuck with his style, and it's like the simplest shit, but it's done so well, you know, like.
But yeah, like that's the Griselda stuff. So like, I'm trying to think of a word for it. It's lush, isn't it? It's the instrumentals.
Lush.
It's really it just sounds so fucking crisp and like.
Yeah, it's fucking. It's like raw as fuck and like so honest. They're putting it all out there, but then it's like so well produced and like, you know, it's got
curated.
Yeah. It's just like, you know, gourmet. You know, like fine, refined shit.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like they're I fucking love them, man. Obviously, I can't really relate to much of the stuff they're saying, but I just think it's, you know. I just think it's sick. I think like to see people like that, you know, I think Benny's done like 3 stretches and, you know, fucking Conway to get shot up and just to continue.
Half his face has got like Bell's palsy.
He learned how to rap and just to like continue to chase a dream and just turn their life around. It's incredible. You can't take that away from them. And yet
that track he did, that track Proud of Me that he did. Have you heard that one, Conway? Because I think he tweeted the other day, didn't he? He just said, everyone's saying I'm samey. I just rap about kind of drugs and guns, like, and then he just listed all of these like introspective songs that he's done, and that was amongst it. He said, "There's much more to my kind of discography than that." He's sick, man. Have you got a favourite out of the 3 of them?
Well, yeah, for me it's Benny without a doubt. I feel like Benny is a bit more. I mean, it's hard, you know. But for me, Tanner Talk 3 settled it. Like, I feel like it's he brings that rawness that they all have, but he does it in like a reflective way, kind of similar to Verbz, you know. Like Verbz brings like the rawness of his life in a sensitive way. So it's like I listen to West Side Gun and I listen to Conway, and I'm like, they're like emotionless, you know, like
just rap machines.
Whereas Benny, like I could imagine he'd like give you a pat on the back and be like, "Yo, it's all right," you know, like whereas the other guys are just ruthless. But Conway as well, he's definitely like elevated. He's got way better. But yeah, I think Tanner Talk 3 just resonated with me the most, and that was kind of a pivotal turning point, like for me to really like start listening to what they were doing and stuff, you know.
I've got to ask though, mate, like, where did the name Mr Slipz come from? Is it just
you guys were gonna ask this?
Come on, where's it come from?
All right, it's literally like the biggest anticlimax ever, you know, like so basically when I was like 15, 16, I was just, I'd literally walk around. This is pre like Spotify era and all that. I'd walk around with like the £10 bag CDs, the Louis Slippers Volume 1, all of them, right?
Oh shit, man!
And I was like plugging UK hip hop so badly to people. Like I'd go around. There was a guy, like basically my homie. I'm not gonna say his name, but he used to like sell weed to me for time, and I'd go around to his house and just smoke up with him. And he was like, you know, he was into the same shit. Like, he knew about Task Force and Jest and Deal Real and like all that shit, you know, like he was plugged into it. And then I'd sit and just chill at his all day, and obviously people were bopping through and we're playing it, and they're like, what's this? And I used to just burn the CDs for people. Anyway, to cut a long story short, he just started calling me Slippers. He was like, fuck it, I'm going to call you Slippers because you're always, you know, playing this shit.
Louis Slippers, oh man. So basically a big homage to Louis Slippers then.
No, then when I started, and everyone used to just call me Slips. Like everyone, like even my friends' mums who I'd meet, you know, even to this day, there's people, they're like, what is your actual name? So yeah, in the end, I was like, well, I can't call myself Slippers because it's kind of biting, so I just called myself Mr. Slipz. I just thought, fuck it kind of works, you know. And picking names, picking artwork, thinking of music videos, like I hate all that shit. I'm always like, yeah, whatever, like that'll do, you know, as long as the music sounds good.
It
but
wasn't an anti-climax, man. I thought that was quite a nice little story. Like I was expecting you to say you used to slip up all over the place. Like,
nah,
I thought
I never fucking tell people either, you know. I literally never. People always ask me, and I'm like, I'm not going to tell you. Just you know,
you like the Joker. You come out with like an origin story, right? So this might be like a really like elaborate lie. We could never know.
Maybe I'm not even Mr. Slipz. Maybe like
man, you are looking like quite clean shaven, and you're not the guy from this LP.
That's definitely not me. I shaved you guys. I wanted to look presentable.
I appreciate that, man.
Do you know what it is? It's like my shaving razor is so shit. So like, yeah, I do it and everything comes off, and I'm like, holy fuck. You know?
I heard this story about you actually. I think Verbz said. Actually, no, I think I saw it on your Instagram story about you were outside having a fag somewhere, and someone came up to you and gave you change. Like,
yeah, well,
throwing your hair out.
Bro, you know the amount of times. So basically, I'd started this office job, and I'd been there a week, and I didn't know like, I didn't know anyone who fucking worked there. So I'm sat on the lunch break like outside, and everyone's like gathered round, and I'm having a cigarette, and someone drives up to me like on the Brighton High Street, and they're like, "Excuse me, mate," and I'm like, "Yeah." And there's literally a homeless guy like 30 meters away sat at the door with his dog. Like, he's always there. And this guy's like, "Do you want a sandwich?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, do you need a sandwich?" And I was like, "Mate, I'm on my lunch break. I fucking work in there. Like, what the fuck?" He's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "There's a fucking homeless guy just there," and they just drove off. They didn't even go to the homeless person. They just fucking drove off.
How did that moment make you feel?
I should have been like, "Yeah, I'll take it," and given it. To be honest with you, that was like the 7th time something like that had happened to me. So by that point, you just don't care, you know. Like,
oh, sick, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I just grew my hair and beard at one stage. You know, I was like, "Fuck it," and there's a lot of homeless people in Brighton. It was like obviously wearing beanies and fucking coats and shit, and occasionally I like wearing tracksuit bottoms, you know, sometimes it's comfy, you know. And I guess, yeah, I've kind of slipped into looking like a homeless person.
Mr. Slipz. It's another origin story, man.
It happens.
Who is this guy?
It's happened a few times, man. Like one time I was in a pub and I was trying to go to the beer garden, and there was this absolute twat. I knew it as soon as I saw this guy. I was like, he's obviously a dickhead. And then he just confirmed it to me. He was sat talking to this woman and he didn't even look at me. And I was trying to get him to move his seat so I could go past. I had like a beer in my hand and I had like my fucking wallet and shit. And I was like, "Excuse me." And he looked at me and he went, "No, sorry, I don't have any change." And I was like, I just instantly was like, yo, I was like, get the fuck out of my way. I was like, I don't need your change. I'm trying to get to the beer garden.
Oh, man.
I'm so sorry, like, but
Man.
I don't look like a crackhead anymore,
Did you ever rap back in the day? Or was it always the beats for you?
No comment.
Oh, we're digging deep now, man.
I started writing bars ages ago, and if you get me drunk enough, I will rap. But it's not something that I wanted to do as like a thing,
Yeah, man.
I've got tunes that I put out. If you listen on my SoundCloud and stuff, there's like 2 tracks that I spat on.
Yeah, the reason I asked, man, Verbz mentioned it. I can't remember. Is it still on SoundCloud now?
Yeah, they are. I'll probably take them down after this.
What are they called? Come on, man.
No. Well, let's move on from this question.
Oh, of course, man.
But,
So
it's something I'm very shy about, basically. But I do enjoy it. I think for me it was more like I think just writing stuff is a great thing, whether or not you record it, whether or not it rhymes, whether it's it's getting it out of your body, and I think that's quite a really important thing. It doesn't matter, like what you're doing with it. It's just the act of actually doing it. So for me, that was always a way of like helping to understand myself and understand why I might be feeling a certain way and stuff. So yeah, and a lot of the homies from Yogocop and all that, like sometimes we all link up and we get drunk and we just rap and shit, and like it happens, Sure. And at one point early when I was making beats, I found myself writing to see if they were beats that people could rap on, because I made some quite weird stuff when I first started. And I was like, is this even, like
fit for public consumption type thing?
Yeah.
Fair play, man.
Is it you that runs Yogocop?
No, I mean, it's basically been juggled between a bunch of us over the course of its existence. And currently, I'm not involved in the running of it now. I did for a while, and I was like, I want to. I found myself, and I think a lot of the people that start juggling it, you find yourself quite busy, and then obviously you have less time to kind of work on your own music. So it got to a stage where It Don't Stop was close to like being finished, and I was like, I want to take a little sabbatical and kind of do that, work on that. And I worked like really closely with everyone when that was coming out. I still do like little bits and bobs and give suggestions, and I'll film stuff when I'm with people if I can, like a YGC TV and stuff. But
how did Yogocop? Were you part of the start of Yogocop?
I wasn't. I was like on the first release they put out.
Was that Concept of 4 that was going out to begin with?
So Concept of 4, Benedict, and I think Cloud9 all kind of birthed the idea of it. And when I was living in Bristol, my mate Big Spin, he shouts to Big Spin. He came over. He phoned me and he was like, "I'm with this homie from Brighton," and he was with Cloud9. Shouts to Cloud9, and he was like, "Come over, he makes hip hop." So I went over there, guzzled some beers with them, went for a skate, and just we played beats together to each other, and I was like, "Your shit's dope," and he liked my shit, and then we kind of swapped details and all that, and then I think he went back to Brighton and he showed Benedict and Illiterate and Author, those guys, my stuff. And then those guys, I clocked, they started plugging into my SoundCloud and commenting on it. And then I got a message from Illiterate being like, "Are you up for joining Yogocop, and I was like, well, what is it, you know? And I was like, yeah. And then I moved to Brighton shortly after that to kind of like be closer to them, to try and work, you know, like work with them and work with Yogocop. And
Yeah.
and little did I know, like, it wasn't as organized and stable as I thought.
Yeah.
So we all kind of put heads together and really worked at it, and worked on volume 2 and came up with ideas and clothing, and did fucking loads of free shows and stuff, and put all the money from that into building it up. And it's great. It's great to see where it's got to, man. I'm really proud of it. And shouts to everyone who got involved with it, you know, and helped sort of take it. It was Tom Young ultimately that really elevated it and got it. You know, he gave it some real structure. He was like such an integral part of like curving it into what it is, from a bunch of disorganized, sort of drug-fueled, problematic people to sort of making it run like a machine. He worked in Rarekind for years, and he knew people, and he just knew how to do it. So he came in and worked for about 2 years with us.
Oh, okay.
And brought a load of new ideas to the table and stuff, and kind of showed us a way in which we could work more efficiently, and kind of, he did stuff like the books and worked out where our money had gone and things like that.
Gee, you need someone like that, man.
Yeah.
It's imperative you have someone like that in your operation, man.
The surrogate mother, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Yogocop. I've always found as a very hard label. My only disappointment, though, is there was no second episode to Yogo Cook.
Yeah, I'm disappointed.
And
I'm
Tom,
really
have you seen
disappointed.
I have, man. Yeah, I have.
I'm so disappointed. A, I burnt the pie, and B, they were like, "Yeah, do this shit." And at the time, I'd quit weed for like a few months, so I had all this energy, and I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "All right, cool, I'll do it." But you know, there has to be a follow up to this, and there hasn't been. And I just goes
4 years, man.
Goes to show how you know, lazy some of the homies can be sometimes. But it is what it is, isn't it? And maybe I'll just do a follow up.
Yeah, I think. Do you know
what? You heard it here first.
Do you know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see like some, I don't know, like some like Vice funded food program with like you and Verbz.
Yeah, that would be funny. We did. We were talking to Off License magazine about trying to do a similar thing to Ancient Aliens, but with me.
Yeah.
That'd be sick, man. Big up those guys. I like what they're doing.
They're great guys, man. It's good to. They haven't even been doing it for that long, and they're really like putting the work in and getting somewhere. So it's great, man. You need people like that to, you know, it's one thing making the music, then you need to have people like yourselves and people like that are kind of,
thank you, man,
putting it out there, you know, putting more out there, putting us in touch with more people, you know. So it's like universal, isn't it? It's good.
Yeah, man. I hear that. But before we wrap up, Mr. Slipz, is there anything you want to plug, anyone you want to shout out, and more importantly, man, new music, what's going on?
Right. I basically, I try not to talk about new music because
exactly the same answer that Verbz gave.
Because basically, like, you can say like, oh yeah, I'm doing this, I've got this coming out, but it doesn't always come out that quickly, and it takes time. All I can say is that I'm obviously going to continue to create music. I think that's something that will always be a large part of my life, and hopefully people will want to put it out, and it's good enough to put out, you know. I obviously I have an album with Verbz coming out, because that's actually done and finished. But yeah, I'm trying to work on some bits for Yogocop. But yeah, I don't want to talk too much about it. yeah, I am planning on making more music, of course.
No, I hear that, man. I hear that. That's a very sensible, diplomatic response. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the whole thing with High Focus as well is like I'm not in a place now where I can just be like, I've got on that label, I can sit back. Not like that at all. I think now I'll probably have to work harder than ever to
I see that. It's sort of like fuel, isn't it, for your creativity?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's like there's a lot of really good music on there, a lot a standard. So like it's like I said to Verbz, I was like, if we do this, we're really gonna have to like put in like 100% and really graft. So it's an exciting time, and I'm happy to be working with them. I'm really excited for stuff with Yogocop as well, and just music that other people are doing as well, like in terms of shout outs, like shout out you guys for chatting to me. Shout out to the people that enjoy my music and give it a chance. So that's wonderful, that's beautiful, and appreciate them a lot,
No, big up, man. Thank you for
thanks for taking the time,
man.
Oh, that's all good, man. No problem.
And when this lockdown lifts, obviously, like come down to Bournemouth, or we'll come to see you in Brighton. Yeah, we'll guzzle some beers on the beach, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. For
when
sure,
the world goes back to normal, if it does.
Yeah, for sure, man. If you're ever down here, just give us a shout. You're more than welcome to come and hang out.
I appreciate you, man. But so Aidan, where can you find the podcast, bro?
So you can find the podcast on all streaming platforms: YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, your favorite streaming platform. If we're not in there, shoot us a message, and I'm sure we can sort it out. Be sure to subscribe, like all of that jazz. And yeah, big up.
One thing. I do have an album that dropped a few weeks ago, Memories, if anyone's interested, with my boy Willis. It's just beats, so yeah. That's
isn't it Journeys?
Journeys, that's it. Right, Memories was the first single we released from it. Yeah, it's called Journeys, thank you. That's, man. That's homage to how little I know about my own music when it comes out.
Oh, man, that's sick, man. I rate that. All right, man. Yeah. Big up and take care of yourself.
Nice one, boys. Peace out, yeah?
Peace out.
Good one. Peace, man.